man in New York lost his wife to an allergic reaction at a Disney restaurant. When he tried to sue, Disney's lawyers walked into court and said he wasn't allowed to, not because of anything that happened at the restaurant, because 4 years earlier he had signed up for a 1-month free trial of Disney Plus, and somewhere in the terms of service, he had clicked "I agree" to a clause that said he could never take Disney to court, for anything, ever again. Most people, when they hear that, assume it can't be real. It's real. It happened in 2024, and the only reason it didn't work was a PR disaster so loud Disney backed down on its own. The clause is still in the agreement. Every one of the 150 million Disney Plus subscribers is still bound by it. And the most disturbing part isn't that it exists, it's that Disney is not unusual. Let's start with the obvious question. If terms of service are this important, why does nobody read them? Because nobody can. Back in 2008, 2 researchers at Carnegie Mellon, Alicia McDonald and Lori Faith Craner, decided to actually measure the problem. They looked at the privacy policies of the 75 most visited websites in the United States. The median length was 2,500 words. At a normal reading speed, that's about 10 minutes per policy. They estimated the average American visits around 1,400 unique sites a year. Do the math, and you get something genuinely absurd. If you actually read every privacy policy you agreed to in 1 year, it would take you 76 full workdays, 2.5 months of your life, every year, just to know what you agreed to. And that was 2008. It's only gotten worse since. So when someone tells you to just read the terms, they're describing a task that would consume more of your year than your job. That's not an accident. That's design. Here's the thing about a terms of service agreement. It is not a notice. It is a contract. The moment you click "I agree," you have legally bound yourself to a document the company wrote that they revise whenever they want. That's written in a language most adults can't comfortably read, and that you almost certainly didn't open. In American law, this kind of contract has a name. It's called a contract of adhesion. Take it or leave it, there is no negotiation. The document is written by lawyers whose job is not to be fair to you. It is to protect the company from you. So what's actually in there? 3 things show up over and over. The first is the data clause. This is where a company spells out what it can collect about you, who it can share it with, and what it can do with it after you delete your account. The unsettling part isn't that they collect a lot. You already knew that. The unsettling part is the phrase that shows up everywhere. We may share your information with our affiliates, partners, and service providers. That word affiliates can mean dozens, sometimes hundreds of companies you've never heard of. The second is the content clause. If you upload anything, photos, videos, voice notes, there's almost always a section giving the company a worldwide, royalty-free, sublicensible, perpetual license to use what you uploaded. Read those words slowly. Perpetual means forever. Sublicensible means they can hand it to someone else. You still own your photo technically, but they can use it, store it, train software on it, and pass it to a partner in any country without paying you a cent. But the third clause is the one that really matters, because the first 2 can hurt you. The third one removes your ability to do anything about it. It's called the Binding Arbitration and Class Action Waiver Clause. You promise that if you ever have a dispute with the company, you won't take them to public court in front of a jury. Instead, you'll go to private arbitration, a closed-door process. With an arbitrator, the company usually has a hand in choosing and no public record, and you give up your right to join a class action, meaning you can't team up with others who are hurt the same way. Each person fights alone. Most don't bother. Lawyers won't take a case worth $200, so most claims just quietly die. And this isn't buried in some obscure terms file. It is in your phone contract, your gym contract, your streaming service, your rideshare app, your credit card, your kid's online game. So how did we get here? Because there was a time when none of this would have stood up in court. The shift came from one Supreme Court decision in 2011, AT&T Mobility versus Conception. In a 5-4 ruling, the court decided that companies could write class action waivers into any contract and have them enforced nationwide. Overnight, a tool that had existed for decades, ordinary people grouping together to take on a giant corporation, became something companies could simply opt out of. And they did, almost immediately. Your cell phone, your credit card, your employment contract, all of it was funneled into private arbitration. In October 2023, a doctor named Kanakporn Tangswan went to a restaurant at Disney Springs. She had severe allergies to nuts and dairy. According to her family's lawsuit, the servers were told repeatedly, They were assured the food was safe. Within an hour of the meal, she went into anaphylactic shock and died. Her husband, Jeffrey Piccolo, filed a wrongful death suit. Disney's lawyers responded by asking the court to throw the case out because 4 years earlier, in 2019, Mr. Piccolo had signed up for a 1-month free trial of Disney+. Buried in those terms was a binding arbitration clause. Disney argued that by clicking "I agree" to watch streaming movies, Mr. Piccolo had given up his right to take Disney to a public court for any dispute involving any Disney company, including apparently a restaurant at a theme park where his wife died 4 years later. Let that sit for a second. A streaming service sign-up used to block a wrongful death lawsuit. The public response was so brutal that Disney backed down within days. But, and this is the part most people missed, Disney did not change the clause. The arbitration and class action waiver is still in the Disney Plus terms today. Disney made a PR decision in one case. The legal weapon is still loaded. That same clause, almost word for word, is in the terms of service of nearly every major American consumer service. But here's the part almost no one tells you. The deepest problem isn't that the terms are long. It isn't even that you can't realistically read them. It's that even if you read every single word and remembered every single word, you would still be on the hook because they can change. Buried in nearly every modern terms of service is a clause that says something like, "We may update these terms at any time. Your continued use of the service constitutes acceptance." Read that slowly. It means the contract you signed last year is not the contract you're bound by today. They can rewrite it, they will rewrite it, and the only notice you'll get is a banner you'll dismiss without reading. So the deal isn't agree once, know what you signed. The deal is agree once, and we'll keep moving the line. The Disney Plus clause that nearly killed a wrongful death lawsuit? It wasn't there in its current form when the service launched in 2019. It was added quietly in a routine update. Mr. Piccolo never saw it being added. He didn't need to. He was bound by it anyway. This is the real face of the contract. It is not a document. It is a living tether between you and the company, and only one of you can pull on it. So what do? Not nothing, but be honest about how much room you actually have. First, learn one phrase. Opt out of arbitration. A surprising number of services let you opt out of the arbitration clause if you write to them within 30 days of signing up. It doesn't get advertised because they don't want you to do it, but it's in the agreement. Open the terms, search for the word arbitration, and look for opt-out instructions. If they exist, send the email. It takes 10 minutes and it preserves your right to sue. Second, use a service called Terms of Service. Didn't read. It's a free project at toastdeer.org where volunteers have already gone through hundreds of major apps and graded them from A to E. You can look up Instagram, Spotify, anything, and see in plain English which rights you're giving up before you sign. It gives you the parts that matter in about 90 seconds. Third, when you delete an account, actually delete it. Don't just stop logging in. Almost every service has a buried delete account option that triggers the actual deletion process. As long as the account exists, the data clause is still alive. The arbitration clause is still alive. Deleting it forces the company to start cutting the cord. Here's what I keep thinking about. The phrase "I agree" used to mean something. Two people in a room looking each other in the eye, shaking hands on a deal they both understood. Now it's a checkbox. Now it's 76 work days of fine print on contracts that the other side can rewrite while you're sleeping, and that may quietly take away your right to a jury if something terrible happens to someone you love. We didn't vote for this. It just happened. One click at a time while we were busy being polite to a button that asked nicely. So I'll leave you with this. Now that you know what those agreements actually contain, what would it take to make you stop clicking "I agree"? Tell me down in the comments.